What is up, everybody, and welcome to Futures Trading with NinjaTrader, and let's get the show on the road. What is going on? Of course, we are joined by none other than Jim Cagnina, Senior Education and Training Specialist over at NinjaTrader. I heard you were excited about a trade, so let's just kind of dive into what you got going on.
Yeah, so the stock index futures were on the move this morning. We had nothing but green on the board, a lot of buying, no sellers. So I picked on the Russell 2000 small cap stock index right here in the future side, and I waited for a retracement to get back down to the VWAP, volume weighted average price, right? And the VWAP was holding nicely all day. We had a big rally here on the open, so I waited for that retracement. I got long at the VWAP here at 1728. I have a target right now at R1, which is the daily pivot number, and my stop is below the opening range, which is at 1720. That's the trade that's cooking right now.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. See, it looks like you're already up on that one. I see your VWAP, of course, for the folks that are just joining us. Appreciate you hanging out with us for Futures Trading with NinjaTrader. You can see the purple dotted lines on Jim's charts are going to be your VWAP. We've talked about that quite a bit on the show this morning when we're trading stocks and futures, stocks and options. And of course, you can see it applies to futures here as well. Your stops are in, your limit orders for take profits are in as well. Let's go ahead and move on to the minis if we can and see what you've got cooking on that side. And let's see what levels you got. Oh, you got a little trade action going on there too.
No, so I was doing the opposite in this. This is from early this morning, and I'm not sure I like it anymore because I'm long one stock index future at this point. But the idea was, right, this was early morning, right? This was during the opening range. And we saw this retracement, but it wasn't very substantive, right? We're hanging around up here around 86, a little bit lower. So I was like, all right, if this hangs out any longer, I want to get short with a stop at the highs, right?
Yeah.
We never got filled. I never got filled on this trade idea. So at this point, I'm going to abandon it because I'm already trying to get long a stock index future. These are relatively correlated, right? So we don't need it anymore. I would probably consider the same thing. Oops, sorry about that. I'd probably consider the same thing. Looking for places to buy. I mean, it's an incredibly strong market today. And you have the VWAP again, and you have the 38.2% again. These are great areas, I think, of entry if we get there. Notice the momentum slowing down, too.
You are a brave soul. Here's why. Because I've been wanting to, and on the other side, I'm talking about it, because I wanted to go long, but man, I have a tough time going long, whether it's a stock, ETF, doesn't matter, futures, when we've already kind of gapped up, because it's like, man, we're already up 2%. Are we really going to go 2.5%? Are we really going to go 3%? This, that, the other, especially when it seems like every single rally has been ripped. But this is why you're day trading it and not swing trading it, right? That's why you're kind of getting those scalps, getting your, 5, 10, 15 point moves, and you're out of there.
Yeah, that's right. And, I tell everybody, never say it can't go any higher. Never say it can't go any lower. Because as soon as you say that, it's going to go higher or it's going to go lower. So just wipe that out of your head when you're day trading. Just erase it. It's not a thing, right? It could go higher. And, we've seen such here. Let's look at a daily chart really quickly here. We've seen such extraordinary movements. Let me just open this up a little bit. Look at the last 3 sessions. Look how big this daily candle is from Thursday. If I go high to low on that candle, that's almost 200 points. Friday. All right, it wasn't 200 points, but it was darn close. High to low was 140. Today, high to low, 110. So, yeah, it could go higher and it can go lower. These candles are ridiculously huge. I've never seen anything like it. So I see sellers being pretty weak today. We had some economic news come out. The Empire State Manufacturing was a big miss, which, remember, bad news is good news. But earnings actually came in okay for some of the banks, which is actually, that's good news is good news.
Yeah, of course. And you've also got more earnings this week as well. So how do you think that impacts the markets, right? I believe you've got Snap, Tesla. They're reporting this week, big companies after them as well, of course, in terms of Amazon, Apple to go ahead and follow later on down the road.
Yeah, I believe that if the earnings are decent, right, going forward, then it's going to give the market confidence that, hey, even in a higher interest rate environment, which is where we're tracking now, we're tracking that extra 75 basis points, another 75 basis points toward the end of the year. But still, earnings are coming in okay. This is what the market expectation is. I'm going to be looking for bargains. I'm going to start buying. That's what I think.
Now, this is a good question in the chat. So, why is the VIX still in the low 30s and going down? Question for you: when you're trading futures, do you look at anything in the sense of the VIX, UVXY, or any of those, or any other different instruments for volatility when you're trading futures? Or is it like, hey, I'm just focused on the levels that are on my chart with the ES, the minis, and all that?
Yeah, okay. I want to know where the VIX is. I kind of want to just be present with that. But remember, the VIX is usually way, way bigger when we're in a downward momentum market, not when we're in an upward momentum market. Just if you just track it versus big green candles versus big red candles. That's kind of number one. But number two, I prefer support and resistance as opposed to that type of correlation, although I do want to know what it is.
Yeah. Okay, I got you. Just wanted to know if you had any sense of what you liked and what, like, of course, because we're all here trying to learn futures trading. But we've looked at the ES. Let's take a look at a Bitcoin if we can and see what the price action is on Bitcoin. I know that $20,000 level was something we were focused on a while back, but now it's been a minute since it's cracked itself below that $20,000 level. Creeping a little bit back up though. Looks like it's currently trading out. What is that, 19,485?
Yeah, exactly. The futures is trading at 1945. And, other than this really crazy, dangling icicle wick here that I call them, it's been, support's been pretty good, right? Let me just draw you a rectangle to show you what I'm looking at here. I don't know, for the last couple of weeks, bottom of the body of the candle right here is pretty good. So this has been pretty good support so far as we're trying to make higher highs. But we do have a low, a swing high and then a lower swing high. I'm a little worried about that. And if this is the high, this is a lower swing high. That's not looking good. But this support's darn strong, man.
Yeah, we'll see if it goes in and bounce off. And do you like any trade ideas here, or is it more so like, hey, there are better opportunities somewhere else, such as corn or oil or anywhere else?
No, I do. I like these even numbers, right? I like the 19,000 number, right? Trying to buy the 19,000 thousands numbers, trying to sell the 2,000 numbers. As long as we're in this kind of range right here, then why not, right? Because this oscillation is going to occur. The correlation, with the Nasdaq is just not realistic right now. Now it's negative 0.56. Remember, this accumulates over time.
Yeah.
So I'm trading the ranges. I would look to trade the ranges as well. I'd probably draw. Oops, I'm sorry. Probably draw another rectangle right about here for today, and say, all right, we're trading in this range here. I'd probably maybe give myself be a little bit more aggressive on the long side and a little bit less aggressive on the short side. Selling
Okay.
maybe, I don't know, 19,740, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to buy at the bottom. But that's what I'm looking at right now. This kind of sideways range bound thing with a little bit of a bias. Till the downside until we take out this high right here. And this high right here, 2,500, give or take.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll see if those levels activate for us to go in and get a trade. And of course, your fibs are going to help you kind of determine your profit target, your stop losses, and all of that as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at crude oil. That's been in the news for a long time. Let's see what the price action says on crude.
Let's start with the daily, and we'll go into a 10-minute chart right here. Again, similar thing, right? A series of lower swing lows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where my X's are. A series of lower swing highs. I don't have X's up there, but 1, 2, 3. So that's kind of a bearish pattern right now. And the short-term trend is actually negative right now. I'm looking for places to sell crude oil. I know there's a lot of moving parts with supply and demand and the war and OPEC plus and all that stuff, but the demand is going to be a big thing. If this is a global recession, demand is going to be less.
Now, any levels you like in terms of a trade? Are you looking to possibly enter when it breaks the low, or are we just kind of, again, staying away from it?
So crude right now, I have a day trade in actually.
Oh, okay.
We're almost to my profit target. I was short up here. I was short 2 units up here at 80. This is the micros. Micro crude's good. We just got filled. I was short 2 units up where my mouse was. When I got the first unit, we got out here. I'll show you exactly where those levels are. I could easily do that with the NinjaTrader software. Let's go to data series really quickly, and I'm going to add my markers, apply, and okay. And there they are. All right, so here was my first unit up here, my 2 units up here. is where we got in 85.62. We took off 1 unit at the bottom here. Remember, real-time simulated live NinjaTrader account. So we had a 1 unit trade rolling. At that point, I moved my stop to break even for the second unit. And then I put a much lower target in for the second unit. Obviously, I should have been a little bit more aggressive even, but we're good there. We got both units. It was successful.
Now, on that one, the reason that you had gotten into the trade was what kind of led you there? Because obviously it worked out for you. You got your target 1 and you got your target 2.
I'm going to put my crosshairs to answer your question. 23.6%. Boom. As soon as we hit that, I'm like, all right, this is good. You know, CCI was turning around at the time. The moving average cross was slowly starting to converge. Everything made sense. So boom, we got short there. We waited for a little bit of a pullback, and then we got short at that 23%. And my stop loss was above the highs today. And crude oil doesn't always trend the same way that the equity markets trend. We've seen these days it's like up 100, down, that was up 400, 500, down 500. Crude oil does tend to find the middle a lot of times, even in a trend. And that's, I think, was part of my thought process also.
So this fib that you've drawn is intraday, it looks like.
Intraday fib, right?
So that high to that low. Yeah. Got it. Okay.
Now it's consistent though with my bias. My bias was bearish, right? We had 1, 2, 3 sideways, 4, 5 down days. So my bias was downward, which made it easier to trade because the trend at the time was from low to high was going the other way, right? So it was a counter trend. I would call it a counter trend trade, even though my long-term bias is bearish. But we did it, and that's where we're at.
All right. Well, we're taking a look at Bitcoin. We saw crude. Nice trade there, by the way, to the short side. I definitely need to get into because I'll trade the minis on NinjaTrader and things like that, but I definitely need to get into the crude oil and things like that. But let's go ahead and take a look at corn and see what the action is on that.
Corn. Let's see. I think I have a daily chart. We can start with that. Let me see if there we go. So again, one of the commodities, right? Remember, in futures trading. So this retracement is complete. There's all these asset classes, right? Grains are one of them. And a lot of folks are like, well, commodities, that's corn, wheat, soybean oil. Well, futures trading is a lot more than that since 1972, folks. But this is one of the mainstay products as well. Remember, you got to know your weather. You got to know the crops planting season. You got to know the import-export equation as well. Anyway, the trend is slightly up here, but it's I don't know if I'd say it's relatively expensive for this time of year, but 685 is kind of a nice sideways slow trend up. I could just draw a trend line up here a little bit. I don't have a day trade on for this today, but we'll see. I mean, you could even suggest, well, maybe there's a triangle forming, but no, I see a trend on the way up here, even though I have a second down day as well in corn futures. So I'd probably be looking for places to buy it today off that trend line.
All right. And of course, corn, you can see it's a higher priced future. So it's going to have a little bit more of a movement in terms of ticks and values and different things like that. So folks should definitely keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and take a look at if you have any Qs futures or Nasdaq futures that we can focus on here, especially with tech earnings coming up. That could get a lot more volatile than perhaps the ES, but I want to get your thoughts on that. And then we'll go to the bigger level on the market overall since we've got some time.
We could start that. Yeah, for sure. Let's go over to the NASI. Now, the Nasdaq here is, this low was breached right early on relative to the other stock index futures from October 3rd, right? We breached that low really quickly about a week later. And so this is one of the weaker ones. There's a really nice target wick down here that I have my eyes on. Whenever I see a candle with one of these really big wicks, like here, I call them target wicks. I'm not the only guy that sees this as a target, right? There was a buyer and a seller, at least one, that did a deal way down here, right? Probably the seller wasn't happy, but the buyer was probably happy. In any event, trend is kind of down. The trend is very down. This is all stock index futures, but we're shooting up here to this 23.6% retracement, 11,072 give or take. And I really want to see it close above this. If we can start seeing it close above this, then maybe we can get some traction up. And you're right, earnings are going to matter here.
Now, would you try to go ahead and buy it again? So say if it trades down closer to that 61.8, or excuse me, I guess for you on the left fib, it's the 0% there, the bottom, the wick basically. Would you look to go ahead and get an entry there with a stop loss right above it, hoping that the buyer who liked it there will love it again when it comes back for a second time? Or would you look for a break of that to kind of go short?
Yeah, I would want a confirmation candle before I did it. In other words, I'd want to see the bounce up. I have no, aspirations to try to buy the low of anything. It's impossible to do. So
Yeah.
I'd want to see that next candle, like we saw here, the next candle being substantively different, right? Which it did. And then not everybody else decided to buy again, right? The continuation buying happened after that. So if we did do a second attack down, I would be patient because the suggestion there was we could go even lower. But then on that confirmation, on the next confirmation candle, then yeah, I would probably look for an area to try to get in, try to buy.
All right. That's the daily on it. So we're looking at a little bigger picture. Anything intraday that you like, especially since you're long, I believe, another ETF already.
Yeah, so let's take a look at so the Russell 2000. All right, this is the Russell 2000. We'll take a look at the Nasdaq in a second. This is a 10-minute chart right here. Everything's going pretty well. I have my target up here. My target up here at 740. Now, you could use the point of control as an area of interest for a target. I used R1 is my area of interest for the target, only because look how many times it's traded at R1. One,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the last, 11 candles have traded at R1, and it's reasonable to think it could trade there again. Now,
Right.
the other thing I would do at this point would move my stop to break even. Like, all right, I got 10 handles in it.
Yeah.
Everything is looking good. It's about $500, give or take. And now I'm not sweating anymore.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm glad you're not, because I am for you, especially because you're about 2-3 points away from taking profits here. Again, you've already known this, and the folks that have been watching us know this as well. I'm moving that puppy down, taking my money and running. But you've obviously had more experience than I do. And from your, from experience, what you've told me is, hey, those limits usually hit. Maybe not every single time. And yeah, you might have a little bit of regret. But typically, if they're that close, there's a reason that you have those profit targets out there. And you just got to trust your trade and why you got into it in the first place.
Yeah, and then there's always the idea that you could trail your stop along as you're making progress, right? So I could trail the stop up and chase it a little bit. That's another technique that a lot of people do. I tend not to. I just kind of, you're right. I think that there's enough fruit on this tree for me to get this. If not, I'm stopped out at break even. I'll try again with another trade idea. That's just kind of my mentality. And typically, moving stops around and moving targets around because you're freaking out about it it's FOMO, right? You're making mistakes usually. So,
all right, we took a look at the Russell intraday. Let's take a look at the Nasdaq intraday, and then we'll look at the big picture on SPY to close out the show.
Yeah, so everything's looking pretty much in systematic movements going on here. Look at how nice this retracement is. That 23.8% retracement. Actually, it's not as nice as you think because I have to adjust this. But we hit it. We didn't substantively close below that 23.6. We bounced off it. Its rally mode is back up here. I would not be interested in selling this market right now. I think that we're gonna be moving up on the north side here as well. Wow. It's just one of these weird things where every once in a while, a 23.6% retracement holds, and then the retracement resumes itself. And even at 38.2%, sometimes that happens. But that's a nice area for a stop because you got your VWAP there too.
That actually would be a really great area to buy. I'm glad you pointed that out so something that I need to do in my trading, and I'm curious, of course, I'll have to test it myself, is see how fibs work on stocks intraday or on, the markets in terms of ETFs intraday as well. But clearly you love using it in the intraday on the future side of things. And yeah, that 38.20, especially if VWAP holds to be around that area, because again, it's support resistance. It's not exactly a number, it's an area. I mean, that'd be a beautiful, whether it works out or not, it'd be a really good risk reward trade. And if it cracks, let's say, 109.50, cool, because you have that whole number there backing you as well. Of course, it depends on how much risk you want to take on your contracts if you want to let it go 20 points to the downside. But I like that. Yeah. That's really cool.
Absolutely. And let me just draw your attention to the volume profile too. So look at where the volume dries up, right? I'm going to draw my crosshairs So the bottom of where I want to call the
Yeah.
meat of the volume profile is 22-ish, and then go all the way down to 982. This is market weakness. Nobody wanted to do a deal there. The market just drove right through there. And look at that. It's right below the 23.6. I mean, we touched it. That's another really good area of interest to say, hey, buyers and sellers aren't interested in doing deals down here. There's no volume there. Let's stick with the meat and potatoes here, which is that point of control. We're almost there. So actually, we got filled, I think. Did we? No, we're on the Nasdaq. I'm on Russell.
You're on, yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So, but anyway, that volume profile is really important. When you see that market weakness, that's for a reason it's weak. The market didn't like to be there.
Let's go back to the Russell because I think you might get filled. And I always love seeing those limit order gets filled. It gives me a good little dopamine hit. Look at that. You're like right there. You're like a point away from getting filled on this one here. As soon as we do, I do want to take one big picture look on the SPY if we can on the minis. But maybe we won't get that opportunity. But we've taken a look at what are you thinking in terms of, obviously it's not financial advice, but I do want to get your 2 cents in the sense of like, do you feel like this rally we put the bottom in, or do you feel like, hey, it's kind of like a bear market rally and then we might see some more lows? Because I've been waiting for 350 for a minute, but unfortunately we got it in the pre-market. I didn't get a chance to take the bounce.
Yeah, so let's go to the daily chart on the ES and the E-mini S&P and just talk about, well, first of all, monthly, right? We're sitting on that 50 period, 200 period, 50 period EMA. This is big. Look at, this is a monthly, right? We only twice have we breached it, and we're sitting on it right now, and it held, right? It held. Now, if I want to go to the daily chart, I'm looking at this area of support here that's held for a long period of time. We have a double bottom. I'm gonna use your imagination, folks. There's bottom number 1 right here, bottom number 2 right here, and I'm looking at the bottom of the candles, and then a big continuation buying right up here. My fib line's way over here, 37.14.
Yeah,
I think we've finally hit our target. Our 37.14 here is we see a close over here, and we could drive back up toward that 3,900 number, very, very positively. Anything could happen. I hate to say that the bottom is in, but what I would say is with earnings coming in okay, with the state of the economy the way it is right now, with synchronicity across all the central banks pretty much going on right now, that there are going to be an awful lot of bargain hunters, people finding value, probably more so in the mid cap than in the S&P. But there's going to be folks, funds and hedge funds and money managers and speculators looking for those bargains. And I think at that blue rectangle there is where we're seeing it. I'm going to cancel my stop.
Well, hey, I think your Russell trade is almost going to go ahead and possibly get filled there, but I want to again appreciate you.
We did get filled. I canceled this.
There we go. See, that's why you got to have patience and not just move your limits like I typically do. But of course, I want to thank you for coming out. But if you guys want more futures action, the fun doesn't stop here today. You can go ahead and check out ninjatrader.com/events. They've got a show later on today. I believe it's 3 o'clock, or is it 3:30?
Say 3:15. Bars closing.
Right in the middle.
Looking for trade ideas. Looking at all these great asset classes on the NinjaTrader software.
Awesome. So make sure you guys check out Jim Cagnina, Senior Education and Training Specialist over at NinjaTrader. Jim, thank you so much once again. Good luck with the rest of your trades, and we'll see you next Monday.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Take care.